Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to begin the funeral service. We ask for those that have a cell phone or pager if you could turn it to the silent mode. Officiating is Rabbi Meir McGenzie.
Tehillim Mizmor Aleph. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach ba'atzat rishayim v'derech hata'im lo amad v'moshav leitzim lo yashav ki im b'torat Adonai cheftzo v'torato yegeh yomam b'layla v'ya ke'ez shatul al palgei mayim asher peryo yitain bito v'alehu lo yibol v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach lo chen harishayim ki im kamot asher tidfenu ruach al kain lo yakumu rishayim b'mishpat v'chata'im ba'adat tzadikim Ki yodea Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech reshaim toved.
Tehillim Kaf Gimel Mizmor LeDavid Adonai Roi Lo Yachsar Bino Deshe Yarbiteni Al Mei Menucho Yina Aleni Nafshi Yishovev Yanchini B'Magle Tzedek Leman Shemo Gam Ki Elech B'Gates Al Mavet Lo Yira Ra Ki Ata Imadi Shivtecha Mishantecha Hema Yinachamuni Ta'aroch Lefanai Shulchan Neged Torai Tishanta V'Shemen Roshi Kosi Revaya Achtov V'Chesed Yerdifuni Kol Yimei Chayai V'Shavti B'Veit Adonai L'Orech Yamim.
At the conclusion of Slichos, just before the recitation of Tachanun, we recite a short tefillah that says in part, Rachmana da'aneh l'svire liba anena, O merciful one who answers the brokenhearted, may he answer us. We here are brokenhearted, having watched, spoken, and met with Howard during his difficult illness that he endured for several years. Yet, Howard never complained, despite enduring an abundance of pain. With each challenge, he shrugged it off and was focused on moving forward. Howard was a person who was passionate about life. He was passionate about golf, about the Cubs, about his politics, passionate about his friends, but above all, he was passionate about the well-being of his wife, children, grandchildren, and sisters Tina and Nancy. He was never embarrassed to cry. Howard grew up in Belleville, Illinois, which is just outside of St. Louis. His father, Mr. Harry Stein, was the president of the shul when I davened there in 1973. In his most recent hospitalization, the hospital social worker asked Howard, "What would you like to do?" And Howard answered, "I want to go to shul." Howard also served as president of Hillel Torah. Education was another one of Howard's passion. Clearly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. While a student at Wash U in St. Louis, Howard met and fell in love with his life mate of 49 years, Sue. A loving and caring wife, Sue has been his cheerleader, always positive and encouraging. Together, Sue and Howard began a life's journey that included taking on the life of a frum family. And it's not the easiest thing to be about tshuva, but Sue and Howard did it with joy and eagerness to learn. Chazal, or rabbis say, they teach us that Balei Tshuva have a spiritual level that few can reach, even tzaddikim. Sue and Howard have been gifted with two special children, Sima and David. They've been by their father's side throughout these past several years and been an important support for their parents. Sima married Jeff, and David married Talia. Jeff and Talia are not just in-laws. They are the children of Sue and Howard and have played important roles in their lives, especially in the care of Howard and the support of Sue. Sue and Howard, loving parents, were very proud and loving grandparents. They took great pride in the accomplishments of Rena, Aryeh, Eliana, Ori, Kira, Ilan, Mayan, and Lior. On one occasion, Howard even went right from a hospital bed to attend a grandchild's baseball game. Even in the midst of his illness, Howard and Sue flew to LA to be with their children, grandchildren, and sisters. Cheryl and I met Sue and Howard around Sukkot of 1977. Howard's big smile and easy laugh, combined with his sharp wit, made us instant friends. But everyone who knew Howard thought of Howard as their best friend. Howard's life was a life filled with zchuyos, great merits, and his neshama departed on the Holy Shabbos, which is also a sign of a person with great merit. He will always be in the thoughts of his family and friends. He will also always be a Melitz Yosher, a great advocate for Sue, children, and grandchildren, and extended family. The Navi Yeshaya states, Bila hamavis lanetzach, may death be removed forever. Umacha Hashem Elokim dima, may al kol panim. May Hashem the Lord eliminate tears of mourning from all faces.
There's no way I'm going to get through this without crying. Dear Dad, this was a speech I guess I knew one day I would have to write, but one that I never wanted to. I'm still not sure how I am supposed to speak about someone whose presence was and is larger than life to me. I know there's absolutely no way I could ever encapsulate in just a few minutes, Dad, what you mean to me, to our family, our friends, and everyone here today. But I will try my best. Dad, you have been there for me and my family for every important milestone, from handing me my diploma at my 8th grade Hillel Torah graduation, to taking me on trip to visit colleges, showing up unexpectedly in New York for my 21st birthday, coming in a week and a half before Jeff and my wedding to be at the funeral for Jeff's bubby, crying your way through mine and David's weddings, though you did attribute that to allergies, I think. And Baruch Hashem, being present at the Simchot Bat and Britot for all 8 of your grandchildren. Dad, you have gone to countless basketball and baseball games for all my kids. Probably your attendance record at many of those games was better than mine. You would sometimes keep track of their stats throughout their games, but you always came away beaming with pride at their accomplishments on and off the court. Teaching our kids how to play tennis and ride bikes, co-coaching Aryeh's baseball team, coming to their piano recitals. You and Mom clapped for the kids as though they had just performed a Beethoven sonata. And you were so excited to hear that Eliana was taking up lessons again, showing them and us time and again how much you cared about us. You have taught us all so many things in your life, granted some more important than others, but all true to you. You instilled in us at a young age the importance of family, as we flew out to California almost every year to visit your parents, your sisters, and cousins. So many formative memories of mine were created during those trips, and those trips impressed upon me from a young age the understanding that family could still be close, even if they were geographically far, especially pre-FaceTime, iPad, and email, and about the importance of finding time to spend together. I know Jeff and I try to instill the same values in our own children. And of course, spending time with your amazing children, but even more your amazing grandchildren, Arye, Rena, Eliana, Orly, Kira, Ilan, Mayan, and Lior, was truly the highlight of your life. You would give anything for us, for them. And I know how much you enjoy the time you spent with them. Watching baseball games or playing cards, it didn't matter. Just being around them brought you so much happiness. Being that neither my mother nor my father grew up here in Chicago and weren't related to anyone here in Chicago, if you can imagine such a thing, my parents quickly began forming friendships in every community that they lived: Hyde Park, West Rogers Park, and ultimately Skokie. And the friendships they have made. Dad, the sheer number of people in this room today is a testament to the kind of person that you were. Kind, caring, funny, smart, thoughtful. People knew how much you cared about them. So many people have reached out to me since hearing the news last night, have said that they will miss your warm smile, your friendly greetings. Somehow, I think even, or I know even, when you wouldn't see eye to eye with people and would argue various issues with them, you still did so with determination, but with respect. Even as recently as a week and a half ago, my dad was so clear about wanting to come home and spend his final days not only surrounded by his family, but also by his friends. You said to Mom just the other night how you wished you could have made a party to say goodbye to all your friends, of which you were blessed with many. Unfortunately, though, we tried hard to find ways to help you come home for a bit. This was not something that Hashem had planned for you, Dad. Dad, you were a plethora of information and had an amazing memory. I'm not sure when you actually started doing crossword puzzles, and maybe it runs in the family. But I remember trying to learn to do them when I was on bed rest with Ari and Rena. I ordered myself a New York Times crossword puzzle book, thinking, how hard could it be? I'm pretty sure I ended up just waiting for you to come over and visit so I could actually get some of the answers right. Even just a few weeks ago at the hospital, we were watching Jeopardy together, and of course you had the right answer to the final Jeopardy question. Though you only taught formally for 2 years of your life, choosing instead to attend law school at the University of Chicago and working professionally as a lawyer, you were a lifelong learner and lifelong teacher. Just in the past couple of years, you wrote plays for the kids on various topics, ranging from Lewis and Clark and the Louisiana Purchase to more traditional topics like the Pesach story. Always looking for more ways to make learning memorable and fun for everyone. For a couple of weeks last year, you and Orly had weekly book discussions on the topic of Charles Lindbergh. Who chose that topic? And it was your idea to initiate weekly family learning sessions during COVID, bringing family members of various ages and skill sets together to learn parts of Masachet Sukkah. You really enjoyed learning the ins and outs of various halachic concepts, and your enthusiasm over many of these somewhat mundane topics was contagious. Dad, in addition to all the things you taught us previously, over the past 3.5 years, you have taught us what it means to be strong in the face of adversity. You have had to deal with your share of hospitalizations and frequent doctor visits, radiation treatments, and visits to various specialists. But through it all, you managed to keep your sense of self, sense of humor, and faith that everything would turn out okay. Your strength was contagious, your confidence that everything would be okay so reassuring, and your sense of humor so comforting that you turned to David in the transport the other night and said, "Are we having fun yet?" You and Mom kept hope alive for us over the past 3.5 years. You have had such a strong desire to live, had such a strong love of life, that even as recently as 2.5 weeks ago, when we thought you were coming home, you discussed with your OT ways in which you could potentially get back to going to shul, ways that you could independently load the dishwasher, and you expressed your desire to your oncologist about wanting to start up cancer treatment therapy again, knowing full well the difficult side effects they could cause. I just want to pause for a moment to say thank you to all the medical professionals, nurses, OTs, PTs, speech pathologists, and doctors who have taken such good care of my father and have enabled him to have more time with us. To name just a few among many: Dr. Randy Swice, Dr. Ben Friedman, Dr. Ari Hakimi, and my husband, Dr. Jeffrey Niger, among many, many others who were involved in my dad's care from the day he was diagnosed until now. Dad, while none of us wanted your journey in life to end here, you have already brought us great comfort in so many ways. We know that you will continue to inspire us and guide us throughout our lives. And as we tried telling you in as many ways and as many times as we could, we will continue to love you for the rest of our lives. Thank you for everything you have given us. We will forever love you. Tehei nishmato tzura b'tzor chaim.
Dear Saba, I want to tell you how thankful I am to have had you in my life for all of these years. I cannot tell you how much you mean to me. There are so many memories I have with you ever since Ari and I were babies. I remember when you would come over and babysit us. We would play Trap Like a Rat, and you would swing us like a clock when we would play Tick-Tock Goes the Clock. It was always our favorite time when you would come over and play with us. As we got older, you would start teaching us instead of playing all the time. I'll never forget the countless amount of spelling bees that you would do with us. Almost all of us know how to spell now, except for Orly. I remember reading books with you and playing piano with you. You were the best teacher I've ever had. You taught us everything from geography and spelling to riding a bike. We have always learned so much from you. Not only were you a great teacher, but you were also one of the funniest people I've ever met. You always told us dad jokes that you thought were funny, and even though we didn't think that they were funny, we would still always laugh. One of my favorite funny memories with you was when we were going to Dairy Star and there was a roundabout. You decided it would be fun to keep circling around the roundabout until everyone got dizzy. Everyone was screaming and laughing while you did that. Every moment with you was fun. Every moment with you was always a great time. We were so fortunate to have grown up so close to you. We loved how you would bring munchkins from Dunkin' Donuts to us every week before Shabbos. We loved how sometimes, instead of just Safta driving us to school, how you would join along every now and then. When Ari and I were learning to drive, you made sure to point out every detail in what we should and should not do when we got our license. I think we learned more about what not to do from watching you drive. We loved coming to your house almost every Shabbos and playing games with you or just talking. One of my favorite games that you taught us how to play was Gin Rummy. I remember how you were so much better at the game than I was, yet you would still tell everyone how much better I was. My favorite time to spend with you was one-on-one time. I loved walking around the block and talking with you. I would do anything to just sit down with you in the kitchen again and just talk about life. You were always there for me no matter what. You cared so much about me and about how I was doing. Whenever I had a test in school, you would make sure to wish me good luck on it, and then you would always text me when I got home from school to see how it was. Not only were you all of our supporters in school, but you were also our supporters on the field and on the court. I cannot begin to tell you how much it meant to all of us that you would come to every one of our sports games. Whether it was sitting in the stands at our basketball games or in the grass in your chair watching Aryeh's baseball games, you were there for it all. I remember how in 4th grade, when Aryeh's team needed someone to step in to pitch for them, you were the one who supported me and encouraged me to do it. I ended up pitching for their team and even got the game ball one game. I remember that you signed it #1 star, Coach Stein. You were always my #1 fan. I know how much it meant not only to me, but also to all my friends when you would come to watch and cheer us on at our basketball games. You were Saba to everyone. Some of my best friends would refer to you as their Saba. You made everyone feel included and unique. Another thing that you taught me is how important family is. I remember how during COVID you would set up learning sessions for us and our cousins. It brought us together during hard times. You even continued this when things got better. I remember all the Zooms that you would set up so that our family could learn Masechet Megillah together. It was so inspiring to learn Gemara with you. I'm so fortunate that I got to learn so much Gemara with you, even when you're in the hospital. You were my biggest role model and will always continue to be. There are so many family memories that I can talk about, but I want to touch on one specific one. I remember how on holidays such as Pesach and Thanksgiving, you would write and direct plays for us to put on for the whole family. You would write songs for us to perform and plays for us to act out. You put a smile on all of our faces, and it was so much fun performing them in front of everyone. I cannot begin to tell you how much we're all going to miss you. You are a huge part in our life, and you will continue to be. We are going to miss seeing your smile when we succeed in something. We're going to miss coming over and hanging out with you. We're going to miss the Zooms and all of the learning that we would do with you. I'll never forget anything that you've done for us. You have a very special place in my heart, forever and always. I love you so much, Saba. Love all of your grandchildren.
Recently, I read that one of the highest compliments you can give someone is that they show up. Showing up can apply to a myriad of things, whether it's visiting a friend in need, attending a simcha, being at your grandchildren's activities, or volunteering at your synagogue. My brother did all those things and everything in between. With Sue by his side, he was always there. For a bris, a bar mitzvah, a wedding, everything. And it really didn't matter where the simcha was. He would travel anywhere, to New York, Los Angeles, Boston, Israel, everywhere. He chose to be there for the joys in life as well as the oys in life. It's easy to love a person who always shows up when you need them. It's easy to love a person who doesn't just settle for words or thoughts, who walks the walk. This was Howard, and it was easy to love him. For my own family, Howard was at every simcha we celebrated. Every bris, bar mitzvah, wedding, he went everywhere, of course, with Sue by his side. He indeed showed up. And as proud as he was of his own children and grandchildren, of course, he was also so proud of my children and their achievements. Growing up with Howard, being the oldest, made it easy for my sister and me. He took the role of big brother quite earnestly and set a stellar example. He was always kind of soft-spoken, but his persona was loud and clear. As a student, he won a myriad of awards, spelling bees, math contests, Latin contests, French contests. He aced every test he took, and he was valedictorian of his high school class. He was one of those kids that when he said he didn't think he did so well on a test, it meant he got an A instead of an A+. Urban legend has it that one summer when he was around junior high age, and when the rest of us were just intent on having fun, he read an entire set of encyclopedias. We were sure this is how Howard got to be so smart. He was also a role model as a son, of course, not only by being the kind and good person he was, but also by understanding and appreciating who my parents were, the sacrifices they were making, and the best life they were providing to us. And in his modest way, he made sure we understood that too. And despite his education to school, Howard was never just a bookworm. He had an amazing sense of humor, and he was also a great athlete. He played a terrific game of baseball and tennis, even becoming the captain of the tennis team in high school. In short, Howard was the perfect brother. Over the years, I teased him as much as I could about that. I mean, he really could do no wrong. Even when he got in a small fender bender, the very day he got his driver's license, he was navigating a parking lot and slightly hit a car coming out of a parking spot. Clearly his mistake, clearly. Yet later when my mom related the story, she assured us it really wasn't his fault, that the other car kind of hit him. And so it was, Howard was still the perfect one. And so when he would visit during a school break, we would be served steak instead of hamburger. Or if anyone would state an opinion first, and then Howard would say exactly the same thing later, it was Howard that got the credit. Or that my mom's excitement was about an upcoming visit with him would elevate her blood pressure very much. After all, he was the prodigal son. So it took me a while, but despite the teasing, I really meant that he was perfect. He really did have the perfect wife, children, grandchildren. He gave me the best sister-in-law, nieces and nephews anyone could ask for. He gave me a lifetime of only good memories, significant lessons, pure joy, and great love. So thank you, Howard, for everything you did for me and Steve and my kids, for every time you showed up, for being who you were. I will love you always and miss you deeply, and you really were perfect.
Do you guys remember the time when Dad came to the YU tournament my senior year of high school and got kicked out for yelling at the refs? He really was a super fan. I was once dealing with a difficult situation, and I didn't know what to do. Time went by, things got worse, and finally I called Dad. I explained to him what was going on, and when I finished, he paused and said, "What in the world took you so long to call me about this?" And of course, he quickly explained exactly what to do. Because that was Dad. He was the patriarch of our family. The one who we all turn to for anything. And there was not a single question or decision that I didn't or couldn't consult him on. We spoke every day at least twice. B'shach b'chaov kumecha. In the morning before work, and then again in the evening. And just like the pasuk of Vishinantam Livanecha envisions, these calls have been the foundation of my days. And his place as our counsel was well earned. Even before he went to U of C Law, his sisters would tell you, as Nancy did, that he was always the smartest person in the room. And so let's just say that it kind of sealed the deal when I brought Talia home for the first time, and she became the only person to ever beat him at a game of Boggle. He was a brilliant attorney. As his health declined, I spent more and more time discussing his work and his cases with him in detail, and I was always in complete awe of his arguments, his reasoning, the scope of his expertise on every issue that he worked on. But his brilliance went far beyond his encyclopedic knowledge. It shone most brightly in the way that he lived his life. Dad endured unimaginable hardship during his sickness. He was given 6 months to live almost 4 years ago. But through his sheer love of life, he simply never gave up. He endured operations for tumors in his brain twice, his intestines twice, his leg, his liver, and his spine, and yet to the very end, I never heard him complain a single time. He called me this past May as he was waiting for a procedure on his liver, and he said, "I'm just so lucky to be allowed to have cancer in 2022. You wouldn't believe what they can do now." Throughout everything, he was first and foremost thankful. Thankful for every moment, for every day, for every person in his life. And those people, each and every one of you, were so special to him. Sima mentioned when he was told that he only had a few days left to live, he turned to us and said, "Well, we've got to go throw a goodbye party for all our friends." But Dad especially cherished his role as the ultimate Saba. It wasn't just that he loved his grandkids and that they loved him back. What was really incredible was that he somehow Dad forged a unique relationship with each and every one of his grandkids. He would talk about box scores with Aryeh and then sit with Ilan and teach him about the Revolutionary War. He would go to Kira Arena's baseball games and then come home to play war with Ma'ayan, to play cards with Ma'ayan or read to Lior. His gift was to listen and to relate to each person on their own. And it was this gift that built the deepest and most loving relationships. And then, of course, there's Mom. His survival was not just driven by his love of life, but it was made possible by the love of his life. Dad was blessed to spend his life with someone who could outmatch his will and his strength. To this day, I'm not sure that Mom will admit that he had cancer. And together, they built a life and a home defined by their values and their chesed. I know that Mom's devotion, her optimism, her care are what made it possible for him to live so long, to live longer and more richly through their 49-year journey together. And of course, there was his sense of humor. He was the master of dad jokes. One of my earliest memories is from when we went to Niagara Falls. I must have been 5 or so, and we took the boat out to get near the falls. And as we approached, he turned to Sima and me and shouted to our horror, "Don't worry, this boat has only sunk 3 times this year." I think Sima is still afraid of boats. This summer, as we sat together at the hospital after his bowel obstruction, one of the doctors came in to discuss his symptoms. She sat down and said, "I'm sorry, I know you're very busy." To which Dad replied, "Oh, well, yes, we really do need to get going to catch our flight to Paris now." That was Dad. His humor, his brilliance, his family, his friends, his strength, his gratitude, and especially his Yiddishkeit. As so many people have mentioned, he only set 2 goals that he wanted to work on when he was at rehab last month: being able to unload the dishwasher and being able to go back to shul. He was a Baal Tshuva who passed away while saying Shema, and who refused, even when he struggled to eat, and there were few things that he could digest, and there was a clear heter for pikuach nefesh. He refused to consider eating anything ever milchiks if he was fleishich. Those Zoom Torah learning sessions that he organized for his grandkids and his nephews throughout his sickness, and how he always told me how proud he was of my work teaching Torah at Shalhevet. I'm the same age today as Dad was when he lost his father. And so the one thing I wish I had asked him for advice about is to know how he carried on. What did he not learn? What did he not ask before his father passed away? And so I know that I'm left to figure that one out on my own. But there's one thing that I've come to so far. During my senior year of high school, when I was interviewing for Gush, the rabbi sat down and he asked me what made me who I am. And it happened to be that there was a picture of my parents hanging over the table where we were sitting, because Mom and Dad were being honored as Parents of the Year that year at Ida Crown. So I just pointed to them and said, "I'm their son." I'll tell you one last story. I was sitting with Dad this past Sukkot after an afternoon of sitting with the Shapiros in the backyard. And of course, we were talking politics. I told him how hard it feels to be moderate, to stake out a middle position, to see both sides, to seek compromise, when it always feels like everyone else is at polarized extremes. He said, "Oh my gosh." And he proceeded to tell me a story that I had never heard before. It was 1969, and he was at a protest at Wash U that was getting violent. Student protesters were facing down the police, yelling and taunting them, while the police at the barricades were clearly getting agitated. I still can't believe I did this, he said. But he and a few others decided to go to the front of the line to stand between the protesters and the police so that they could talk to both sides. He laughed at how stupid that plan was. He turned to me and said, "Well, I guess you really are my son." And so all I know is how proud I will always be to be his son. I will know that everything I am has been shaped by him, that Sima and I, and Mom, Rena, and Aryeh, Eliana, Kira, Orly, Ilan, Mayan, and Lior, and all of us here, we will all carry so much of who he was, his legacy and his values, and his friendship in everything we ever do. Tehei nishmato tzaror b'tzorah chaim. El malei rachamim, shochen bamromim, hametzei menucha nechona, al kanfei השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת הרש יעקב בן אהרון שהלך לעולמו. בעבור שאנחנו מתפללים בעד הזכרת נשמתו, בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום על משכבו, ונאמר אמן.
You may be seated for a moment. This concludes the funeral service here at the chapel. The interment will take place at West Lawn Cemetery. For those who will be joining the family procession, we'll be lining up in our parking lot. We ask that you have your headlights and hazard lights on while in procession and drive as close as safety permits to the vehicle in front of you. The family will be sitting Shiva at the Stein residence. Slichas and Shachris every morning will be at 6:30 and Mincha Marv at 6:40. The family requests that no visitors between 12 and 1:30 p.m., 5 and 6:30 p.m., and after 9:30 p.m. The following individuals have been asked to act as pallbearers: Arya Niger, Norman Heisler, Sidney Heisler, Jeff Niger, Sammy, and Aaron Shapiro. If we can all rise and have the pallbearers please come forward as we escort the casket, the family, from the chapel.